Hello and welcome to Ladies and Gentlemen. There's something I've learned from walking through the fire more than once in life. And that is, resilience isn't something you're born with. It's not just a trait or a gift, it's a decision. A decision you make when everything inside you is telling you to quit. When the voices in your head get louder than the ones cheering for you. When the path ahead is so dark, you can't even see the next step. That's when resilience shows up, if you let it. See, it's easy to be strong when everything's going your way. When the sun's out, your plans are working, people are clapping for you. That's when everybody's standing tall. But what happens when the applause fades? When the storm hits? When you fail publicly? When people stop believing in you, or worse, when you stop believing in yourself. That's the test. That's where you find out who you really are. That's where not giving up becomes more than a catchy line. It becomes your only option. I've stood in places where quitting felt easier than standing. Moments where it would have been simpler to say, maybe this dream isn't for me. Maybe I wasn't meant to go this far. And you'll hear those whispers too, trust me. Life will throw every excuse at you, your past, your pain, your fears, your failures, all lined up like a jury ready to convict you of being not enough. But that's the lie. That's the trap. You can't listen to that noise. Because every person you admire, every success story you've ever heard, every great thing that's been accomplished, all of it was born out of someone refusing to fold. Someone who looked at their situation and said, I'm still standing. I don't know how I'll make it through, but I will. That's the fuel. That's the fire. That's what resilience really is. Not strength you always feel, but strength you choose even when you're at your weakest. And here's the real truth. Your lowest point doesn't define you. Your comeback does. The time you fell flat and got back up, even with scraped knees and a shaky heart, that's what shapes you. That's what tells the world I cannot give up. Not because it's trendy, not because it looks good in a quote, but because giving up would mean betraying everything inside you that still believes there's more. Resilience is waking up one more day when yesterday drained you. It's showing up when no one's watching. It's grinding in the shadows, trusting that the light will come. And it's not a straight road, it's messy, it's painful, it's real. But it's worth it. Because every step you take through the fire builds you. Every time you refuse to let go, you grow into the kind of person who doesn't just survive, but inspires. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need applause. You don't even need certainty. You just need one reason to keep going. And that reason is enough. Because if you can keep moving forward when everything says stop, you've already won something more valuable than the goal itself. You've proven that you're stronger than your struggle. You've proven that your heart is still beating with purpose. And most of all, you've proven that no matter what life throws your way, you cannot give up. Let me tell you something real. When you don't know why you're doing something, it's a lot easier to quit. When there's no purpose driving you, no vision pulling you forward, it doesn't take much to knock you off track. But when your heart is locked in on a reason that matters, a reason bigger than the obstacles, that's when quitting stops being an option. That's when I cannot give up becomes your reality, not just your words. Purpose is powerful. It's not just an idea or a dream. It's the fire behind your grind. It's what gets you out of bed when you're exhausted. It's what makes you keep pushing even when you're the only one who sees the destination. And trust me, not everybody is going to understand your purpose. That's okay. It wasn't given to them. It was given to you. It lives inside your spirit, your experiences, your story. And when things get hard, because they will, it's that purpose that reminds you who you are and why you started. You ever noticed how people with purpose walk different? They don't let distractions pull them off course. They don't fold every time life gets uncomfortable. It's not because they don't feel pain. It's because they know what's on the other side of that pain. They're chasing something that means everything to them. That could be their family, their calling, their legacy, their future. Whatever it is, it's rooted deep. And that's what keeps them moving when everything else says stop. Now, let's be honest. There will be days when that purpose feels distant. You'll question it. You'll wonder if it's still worth it. That's human. But in those moments, don't look at how far you still have to go. Look at how far you've come. Remind yourself that the fact you even have a purpose means you've already been chosen for something greater. That purpose? It's your anchor. And even in the roughest storms, it holds you down in the best way. See, purpose doesn't make life easier. It makes the fight worth it. You might be tired. You might be discouraged. But if you've got a reason that hits your soul every time you think about it, you'll find strength you didn't even know you had. Purpose wakes you up, makes you hungry. It reminds you that every step, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, it's all adding up to something bigger than you. Sometimes people say, I don't know what my purpose is, and that's okay. It's not always loud. It doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it starts as a whisper, a small pull in your heart, a nudge towards something that feels right. Pay attention to that. Follow it. You don't have to have it all figured out right now, but when you move with intention, when you live with meaning, that's when your purpose starts to unfold. And when it does, hold on to it. Write it down. Speak it out loud. Let it drive you when motivation fades. Because purpose is deeper than hype. It doesn't disappear when life gets heavy. It grows in the pressure. It becomes the reason you fight, the reason you climb, the reason you stand back up when you've been knocked flat. And once you connect to that, once your purpose becomes your fuel, giving up isn't just a bad option. It's not even on the table. I cannot give up. Sometimes when we think about success, we picture this big, dramatic moment, like a spotlight turns on, the music swells, and everything just comes together perfectly. But the truth is, it almost never looks like that. It's not one giant leap. It's not this huge cinematic breakthrough. Most of the time, it's just small steps, one after another, quiet, unnoticed, uncelebrated. And that's where most people miss it, because they're waiting for a moment that feels big enough to matter, instead of understanding that the small steps are the big moments. I cannot tell you how many times I've felt overwhelmed looking at the big picture, the mountain of work, the long road ahead, the gap between where I am and where I want to be. That feeling can be paralyzing. You start asking yourself, how am I ever going to get there? And it's easy in those moments to want to stop before you even start. But that's when I remind myself, just take the next step. Don't try to figure it all out. Don't try to leap to the finish line. Just take one real, solid step, then another, because every step matters. Even the slow ones, even the messy ones, even the ones that don't seem like progress at all. You show up for yourself in the small moments, and you don't even realize you're building a foundation. You're stacking courage. You're developing discipline. You're growing. And that growth might be invisible to the world right now, but it's real. It's happening, step by step. If you've made it through something, don't forget to reach back and help the next person climb. Your story, your voice, your presence could be the exact thing someone else needs to hear to keep moving. We're not just here to survive, we're here to build each other up. Iron sharpens iron. Iron. And in that sharpening, in that connection, we grow stronger together. Because there will be days when you don't have the strength to carry yourself. And it's on those days that the people you've poured into, the ones who've seen your fight, they'll carry you. Not out of pity, out of respect, out of love, out of shared purpose. When you have that, when you know you're not in this alone, something changes in you. You start to see that your fight isn't just about you anymore. It's about everyone who's walking beside you, cheering for you, and believing that you can keep going, even when you don't feel like it. And that's why, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how heavy the load may feel, I cannot give up. Sometimes when we think about success, we picture this big, dramatic moment. Like a spotlight turns on, the music swells, and everything just comes together perfectly. But the truth is, it almost never looks like that. It's not one giant leap. It's not this huge cinematic breakthrough. Most of the time, it's just small steps, one after another. Quiet, unnoticed, uncelebrated. And that's where most people miss it, because they're waiting for a moment that feels big enough to matter instead of understanding that the small steps are the big moments. I cannot tell you how many times I've felt overwhelmed looking at the big picture, the mountain of work, the long road ahead, the gap between where I am and where I want to be. That feeling can be paralyzing. You start asking yourself, how am I ever going to get there? And it's easy in those moments to want to stop before you even start. But that's when I remind myself, just take the next step. Don't try to figure it all out. Don't try to leap to the finish line. Just take one real, solid step, then another, because every step matters. Even the slow ones, even the messy ones, even the ones that don't seem like progress at all. You show up for yourself in the small moments, and you don't even realize you're building a foundation. You're stacking courage. You're developing discipline. You're growing. You're growing. And that growth might be invisible to the world right now, but it's real. It's happening. Step by step. We live in a world that celebrates speed. Everybody wants to go viral, blow up overnight, take the shortcut. But I've learned that slow progress is still progress. Actually, slow progress is often stronger progress because it's not built on hype. It's built on habits. It's built on showing up when it's boring, when it's tough, when there's no reward in sight. And if you can be faithful in those small things, the big things have a way of finding you. And listen, don't let comparison mess you up. That's a trap, and it's real easy to fall into. You look at someone else's success, someone else's timeline, and suddenly your steps feel too small. But their journey isn't yours. Their pace isn't your pace. You've got your own lane, your own rhythm, your own path to walk. And if you keep your eyes on what you're building, not what everybody else is doing, you'll realize you're making more progress than you thought. Even on the days when it feels like nothing's changing, you're changing. You're changing. You're becoming the kind of person who can handle what you're asking for. And when you finally reach those big moments, and you will, you'll know that you didn't get there by accident. You earned it, brick by brick, day by day, step by step. It's not about being perfect. It's not about never falling. It's about not quitting. It's about showing up even if all you've got in you today is a small step, because that small step could be the one that shifts everything. You won't always see the results right away. But trust me, something is happening. The roots are growing. The path is forming. And every time you choose to keep going, no matter how small that move may seem, you're proving something powerful. I cannot give up. There's something we don't always talk about when it comes to giving up. The aftermath. The silence that comes after you let go of something you once believed in. The weight that settles in when you walk away from a dream. Not because it wasn't meant for you, but because the fight just got too hard. And I get it. We all have limits. We all get tired. But what we don't always see in that moment is the cost of giving up. Not just the opportunity lost, but the part of you that starts to wonder, what if I had just held on a little longer? Giving up may feel like relief at first. Like you're finally putting down the weight you've been carrying for so long. But that kind of relief is temporary. Because deep down, you know when you've given up on something that still had life in it. You know when you've walked away from something that mattered. And that quiet voice in your heart, it doesn't just disappear, it lingers. It reminds you of what could have been, what should have been, what still could be if only you had chosen to keep going. See, what scares me more than failure isn't falling short. It's wondering years from now how far I could have gone if I had just refused to quit. I don't want to live in that space. I don't want to carry that regret. I'd rather fail trying than live wondering, because failure at least means you gave it everything. Regret, that sticks with you. It's not loud, it's subtle. It creeps in when you see someone else doing what you used to dream about. It shows up when you realize the door didn't close. You just stopped knocking. You've got to understand, giving up doesn't just affect you. It impacts the people who are going to be inspired by your persistence. The lives you were meant to touch. The people watching you silently, waiting for proof that it's possible. Your story could be the reason someone else keeps pushing. But if you stop now, they may never see what's possible. And that's not to put pressure on you. That's to remind you how much power you already have, even when you don't feel it. Even when you think no one's watching, somebody is. And your endurance is speaking to them louder than any words ever could. I know it gets hard. I know sometimes the dream looks further away than it did yesterday. I know the progress feels slow and the payoff feels invisible. But what if you're closer than you think? What if that breakthrough is one decision away? One conversation, one more try, one more day of not giving up. You'll never know if you stop here. And that thought alone should be enough to keep you moving. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to stay in the game. Keep showing up. Keep believing that something good can still come out of the struggle. Because it can. And it will. If you don't cut the story short, giving up might feel like the end of the pain, but it's also the end of possibility. And I don't know about you, but I'm not ready to throw away everything I've worked for just because the path got tough. Not when I've come this far. I cannot give up. There's a moment that comes for all of us. A moment when you're standing right on the edge of who you've been and who you're becoming. And in that space, it's not just about what you want anymore. It's about what you're willing to become to get it. Growth, real growth, costs something. It requires you to let go of comfort. It demands change. It demands risk. And most of all, it demands endurance. Because the truth is, becoming the version of yourself that you were created to be will stretch you in ways you never expected. People want success, but not everybody wants the growth it takes to sustain it. And I get it. Growth is uncomfortable. It exposes your flaws. It challenges your habits. It humbles your ego. You'll be asked to confront things you've been avoiding for years. Your fear, your laziness, your excuses. Growth doesn't care about your pride. It cares about your potential. And it will press on every part of you until you make a decision. Stay the same or step into the next level. But you can't have both. You can't become more and stay the same at the same time. There were times I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize who I was becoming. And it scared me, not because I didn't like that person, but because that person came with a new level of responsibility, of mindset, of discipline. That version of me didn't just dream. He acted. He let go of dead weight. He moved with intention. And to get there, I had to die to some old versions of myself. The one who played it safe. The one who second-guessed every move. The one who let fear run the show. Growth made me realize something important. If you're not evolving, you're slowly breaking down. You may not feel it right away, but stagnation has a way of sneaking up on you. You start settling for good enough. You start talking more than doing. You stop taking risks. That's when your soul starts to shrink. And that's the beginning of giving up, not all at once, but piece by piece. And if you're not careful, you'll convince yourself that survival is the same thing as purpose. But it's not. Survival is the floor. Purpose is the ceiling. Growth is how you rise. So yeah, growth is hard, but staying stuck, that's harder. Waking up years from now and realizing you didn't become who you were meant to be because you didn't want to be uncomfortable, that is harder. The pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts a whole lot longer. So if I have to choose between the struggle of stretching or the numbness of standing still, I'm going to choose the stretch every time. And let me say this, growth doesn't mean you're never afraid. It means you do it scared. You do it unsure. You do it while your knees are shaking. But you do it anyway, because you've decided that the cost of staying the same is greater than the cost of pushing through. You've decided that the old version of you is no longer enough for the dream you're chasing. And that kind of decision, that's power. That's freedom. That's where change begins. And so I keep moving forward. I keep evolving. I keep learning and failing and rising. Because every new level demands a new me, and I owe it to myself to become that person. I owe it to the dream. I owe it to the people depending on me. And above all, I owe it to the fire that still burns inside me, whispering the same truth over and over again. I cannot give up that everything I've said, it all comes down to this. The decision to keep going. No matter the setbacks, no matter how long the road feels, no matter how many voices tell you it's too late or too hard, you must decide that quitting is not an option. Your purpose, your journey, your growth, they all depend on your ability to keep showing up. You've come too far to let fear or fatigue take you out now. Every step you've taken, every lesson you've learned, every time you chose to keep moving when it would have been easier to stop, that's built something in you that can't be shaken. That's your power. And yes, it gets tough. Yes, it gets lonely, but you weren't built to break. You were built to rise. So let this be the moment you draw a line in the sand. Not tomorrow, not when it feels easier, right now. You tell yourself, and you mean it, that nothing will stop you from becoming everything you were meant to be. You were meant to be. The world may doubt you, but you don't have to. Because now you know the truth that's carried you this far. I cannot give up.